guy, for some reason, got hung up on that song and thinking that, and not quite buying that those kids wouldn't know that song.
Right,
so
right,
you
right.
told me, well, you told me.
Okay, well, here's the story. So we tried many Tunnel songs, and Alexander Patsavis, our music supervisor, brought Heroes. And I love the song Heroes, but, you know, look, this is a semi-autobiographical movie. In 1991, 1992, when it's set, I did not know the song Heroes. So it may not be realistic, but it's real. You know what I mean?
You knew Bowie. You knew Bowie.
I knew Bowie, but Bowie was the Let's Dance guy. And then later, I was like, oh, he did stuff before that, and oh, it's wow, way better. And so yeah, we were very proud to, and I can't believe that he gave permission. It's fantastic.
Now let's I mean, the songs in this are just choice. They're great. It's a great collection of songs. I hope there's a soundtrack.
There is.
Or two that go along.
And there will be a vinyl release as well.
Awesome. How did you afford all these great songs? Because I can't imagine that wouldn't have taken up a huge chunk of budget.
Yeah, yes, it did. But here's the great thing. It was twofold. Number one, some bands knew about the book, and everyone played ball. In other words, look, Morrissey and the Smiths, they could have gouged us, and they didn't. They knew it was important to the book and it's important to the fans, so they gave it very reasonable. They would probably charge some big Hollywood movie like $500,000, $1 million, but not even close to that. So that was number one. People really wanted to be involved, which meant a lot to me, and Alex called in a lot of favors. Simultaneous to that, we had a test screening in Laguna Beach, and so this is how it works in Hollywood. You probably know this. Some of you guys are cinephiles. You would know this too. So you test a movie and you put in every song you've ever wanted to be in the movie, and then they go, great, now take them all out and put in the cheap ones when you're done with the movie. But the audience in Laguna loved the movie so much that they just said keep them, and they released so much. I'm not allowed to say how much, to get them in trouble with other filmmakers, but let's just say a lot. And because they believed in the movie, and so they said, all right, you can have your songs. So that's why.
That's great.
Yeah. That's such a bright light.
Yeah. It's the sun. Wow.
I feel like I'm in Leanne Rose. Like.
Somebody makes it break. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
Wow.
Now it's just like being in traffic. For those of you, I mean, I'm guessing a few of you have read the book. The book is a series of letters,
yes.
Much like the narration you have here. What was the key to sort of removing it from that style and turning it into a slightly more traditional film narrative?
Well, I worked in a lot of different mediums over my career. I've done movies, TV, and books, and so I had my hands in it, and I did the screenplay for Rent, and that helped me, because I didn't create the characters Jonathan Larson did, to try to, that was like my training wheels almost, trying to figure out how to do it a little bit. But the real answer is, it came down to his friend, Charlie's best friend, Michael. Okay, so in the book, on page 2, he says that my best friend Michael killed himself. And I just knew that if I revealed on page 2 of the screenplay that happened, that it would be a suicide movie. I don't know why. Film is more visceral, it's more objective, and you don't have as much intimacy, so you have to be much gentler in your approach, I guess. And when I said, okay, but I have to have the information come out, how can I do it? And then I started to like, oh, you know, if he got stoned, and then he told Sam at the kitchen, oh, that would make her like really feel sorry for him. And then all the cynics were like, why are they so nice to him? It would answer their question, and it just, everything folded. And what I realized is, the more I restrained myself from explaining emotionally what was happening, and I held off until the last possible moment for every revelation you could get, it gave me my entire aesthetic. That's how I did it.
Was there a particularly tough section of Charlie's story that you wanted to include in the movie that was hard to extract? I mean, I'm guessing that the material about the ant was difficult, especially the way it's presented here in bits and pieces. But was there a particularly tough?
It was really hard. I got to be honest. You know, the book was so much easier to write than the movie, because the book just yeah, I know it sounds funny, but it just poured out. And I was 26, and I was a kid, and I was going through a hard time, and so it was just very honest and just poured out. the movie took so much. The book took, I'd say, spread over a couple of years, of course, but I'd say me sitting down writing 4 months. The movie took about, I would say, a year. You know, because everything had to be right, and the pressure that I felt, because I love the book and it's so personal to me, and the people who love the book, they love it so much, and I felt obligated to them to make it good. And so, yeah. And so the whole thing, honestly, some things were easier than others, like Patrick, because he's so open, he's much easier to write for the screen than, say, Charlie, because how do you write an engaging person who never talks for 12 minutes? You know, it's really tricky. So yeah, I probably just didn't answer your question at all.
No, well, you know, you led into a good one about casting, because you know, I've certainly met a few writers who have had absolutely no say in the casting of, even if they've adapted their book or play or whatever, they don't have any say in the casting. But as director, I'm guessing you had a few things to say about who got cast, both as the 3 leads and then your incredible supporting cast. Talk about just lining up the 3 leads.
Okay, yeah, the 3 leads. Well, here was the lovely situation I found myself in, even though it was the first time studio filmmaker was. Because I wrote the book, I didn't get the usual grilling or hazing that I think first-time directors get, because I was the authority on perks, and so you know, nothing was done without my approval, and which was great. I knew Emma. I wanted Emma because of this one scene that she did in this one. I don't even remember the movie, because I mean there were 8 of them. One of the Harry Potter.
You narrowed it down to a Harry Potter.
Yeah, Harry Potter. That was very unintentionally funny. It's a scene where, and Emma's fans can yell it out. She's talking. She's sitting in front of this huge grand staircase with Daniel Radcliffe, and I think she just had her heart broken.
Apple Prince.
Goblet of Fire.
Okay, thank you. Goblet of Fire. Thank you. And I was so moved by that scene, and I'd seen all the movies. I was like, God, this girl gets better every time. And I just thought, I don't know, writing Sam in the book and knowing the girl that inspired Sam, or at least started the inspiration, and then I went with it. She just fit, and she was real for that part. And so after for the part, she said yes. We met in New York City, and we were instant kindred spirits. And so she didn't audition. I just kind of knew she was right. And Logan was the second person to audition for Charlie, and after him, there were no other auditions because he was perfect. Like what you saw, it got better here, and he was more immersed in it, but it was there in 5 seconds. I was, wow, it's him. The tough role was Patrick. We read probably 100, 150 people for Patrick, and I had seen City Island that Ezra Miller was in, and my wife had said, that kid could be Patrick, but he was really young then. Did you see City Island?
Andy Garcia, that one?
That one.
Yeah.
He plays the son, and he's crazy in that movie. He's so funny. And and so he did audition, and we found this kid, Ezra Miller. Oh, yeah, the City Island kid. And he sprouted because he has to be the older one, and he's the youngest cast member. The girl that plays Alice, the blonde girl, she's 25, and Ezra was 18. So it's like, I just got lucky. He got tall. That's how they came about, and little by little, I'd done my homework, and Mae Whitman I loved from Arrested Development, and I knew she had to be Mary Elizabeth, and Paul Rudd I knew in New York a long time ago, and when I knew him, when we were much, much younger, I said, someday I'll make the first movie, and he has to be the teacher. I love Joan Cusack, and we just got lucky. Who knew Dylan McDermott was funny? It's like, yeah, it's just, I'm so proud of this cast, and I love them all, and they were so nice to me and patient, because I was new to it.
This isn't the first on Charlie's bookshelf that are given to him by his teacher, most of them. Talk about some of your film influences, and I mean, the one that I know a lot of people are going to want to try to throw you into is the John Hughes camp, and there's some of that there for sure, but who are some of your cinematic influences?
Cinematic influences? Well, in a very personal, here, I'll answer that in 2 parts. In terms of the movies that I studied very, very directly for this, I went back to what I would, not so much high school movies as just what I consider coming-of-age movies that I loved and meant the world to me growing up. It was Rebel Without a Cause and The Graduate, Harold and Maude, Stand By Me, Dead Poets Society, and Breakfast Club. Those were my favorites, hands down. And so, and I noticed how they all kind of had like this autumn color palette. It was interesting. They all seemed to have this a timeless nostalgia in common, and that really fit with what I was writing in the book. So I thought it lent itself to model a little bit for the movie, but in a very kind of a more personal way, cinematic influence in a lot of directors I've worked with. I can talk about that if you want me to, but it was when it's more of a story. So I'm 17 and I'm from Pittsburgh, right? And I don't know I don't know anybody in the business. And I got into USC Film School and I went and I visited. On the day I visited, it was a complete chance. It was the day that a man named Stuart Stern was giving like a seminar for students. And Stuart wrote the screenplay for Rebel Without a Cause, and Sybil and Rachel and The Ugly American, all these great movies, nominated for 3 Oscars, won an Emmy. Amazing man. He's telling all these stories about, oh, when I traveled with Brando, and oh, the day I met James Dean, and I'm 17, like, oh my God, And I said, if this man is here, I'm going to go to this school. And when I arrived at the school, he had, in that semester, he had a massive heart attack. And he went to the hospital, and he was fine, thank God. But I wrote him a letter and actually made him a mixtape to help him recover, because he meant so much to me. I only, it was one afternoon, but he meant so much to me. And I signed it anonymously because I didn't want him to think I was trying to win favor, It took him a year and a half to figure out who I was. And he was my hero and mentor ever since. And he is the direct inspiration for Paul Rudd's character of Bill. He's the one that said those things to me. He's the only person who's thanked both in the acknowledgments of my book and in the credits of the movie. And he's the first person who actually read the screenplay when I was done with it. I saw him last night for dinner. And I'm going to show him the movie. It's next week, next Tuesday. It's going to be like the greatest, most amazing night of my life. Okay, go with it. So George Romero and Tom Savini, who plays the shop teacher.
There, yeah.
Does anyone know who Tom Savini is? Right? Thank you. Yeah, because on set I was like, I'd go to Emma, hey, do you know who this man is? She didn't care, I tried to make her care. She's like, I don't like those movies. No, but George Romero was a huge hero growing up in Pittsburgh, and I met him when I was 17 in the lobby, and there was this film festival, and he did a Q&A. I'm like, someday I'm going to make movies, you're going to want my autograph, And he signed a poster for me. And so in the background of the Rocky Horror Picture Show Theater, the Hollywood Theater in Dormont, we mocked up a George A. Romero Film Festival in his tribute.
Yes,
God, everyone's staying. Wow, you really liked it. Thank you so much.
I saw it with a bunch of film critics last week when Savini popped up on screen. The place went crazy. Like that doesn't happen very often.
No.
So yeah, it was great to see him there. Okay, who has a question?